A lot of attention these days by a lot of teachings and teachers is put on self-awareness. It's described as things like abiding as awareness, tuning into awareness, settling into awareness, trying to reach awareness. And all of this has value, tremendous value. At the same time, the importance of self-observation in relation to self-awareness or self-remembering, as the fourth way says, the importance of self-observation can be overlooked. And it helps to understand why self-observation and self-awareness or self-remembering go together. The reason is that what we observe serves as a foil for being aware of the realization that we are observing it. We start to become aware of our thoughts. We also start to become aware of our body, of our sensations, and our movements, in addition to our thoughts and our feelings. By virtue of becoming more aware of these things, we start to realize there is something that is aware of them. We realize we are aware of them. And by virtue of realizing this, we begin to realize and recognize ourselves as the awareness that is watching them. And in this way, what's happening is, through self-observation or from self-observation, awareness begins to extract itself from what it observes. There's a step here, though, that can be a trick. That's not the best word, but it can be a hurdle to overcome. And it is this, that as you start to observe your body, your movements, your sensations, and your mind, your thoughts and your feelings, you begin to solidify the feeling of, I am observing this now. Before, you just became all of your thoughts and your emotions and your sensations. You attached and then you identified with them. There was no distinction between you as this awareness and all of these things that you're observing in yourself, this self-observation. Now there begins to be some distance between the two. But what can happen is it can settle into this feeling of, I am now observing my thoughts. This has value, but the observer is still in the mind. It's still awareness, almost in a corner of the mind now, watching the rest of the activity going on in the mind. It's in the corner, experiencing itself as I, as the observer. This is still not a full extraction of awareness from the mind. Eventually then, or gradually, what happens is awareness becomes also aware of this feeling of I. This too becomes part of self-observation of what is observed. Not just the thoughts, but the feeling of I observing the thoughts. If you notice carefully, you will realize something, for lack of a better word, it's hard to describe this in words, something is also observing this feeling of I as the observer. There's a more pure, more clean, clear, a more complete extraction of awareness now. And this is now awareness pulling itself completely out of the mind and into this other dimension of itself. And this is how it continues to go, because each lower dimension becomes the material of self-observation for the next higher dimension. And it is through observing ourselves at each dimension of awareness, of a feeling of being, it is by virtue of observing that at each dimension that awareness begins to realize itself as the next higher dimension. Each dimension observed becomes the foil for awareness realizing itself as that which is observing. For example, you asked about a sense of bliss or a feeling of love toward the world and toward humanity, toward life, toward creation. And if you notice, there's something beyond them observing them. This is more difficult to realize, however, because the sensation of bliss and the emotions of love and the emotions of appreciation and wonder, these are, you could say they're the height of our mind and body. The highest sensation the body can experience in response to the perceptions of awareness is this feeling of bliss, or you could put peace in that same category. Stillness, contentment, quiet. And in the mind and in the emotions, the same thing is true of this feeling of love and this feeling of appreciation and wonder and mystery and surrender. This is as high as our emotional, as the fourth way says, our emotional center can reach, can go. You're at the top of the ladder now of human emotion and reaction to the perceptions of awareness. And now there is something beyond the ladder. There's now even a further dimension, another dimension of awareness beyond those, observing those. This now is where you get into the true unknown. From the human perspective, the true unknown, because things like love, bliss, peace, we know these to some degree, and as they heighten, they become more enjoyable, pleasurable. We feel we are rising. The emotional feeling of, say, love or appreciation, gratitude, all of these, empathy, they all become lighter and lighter, more rarefied, expansive. And the same with the instinctive sensations of bliss and peace and stillness. But there is more beyond them in another form, a much higher rarefied form, and it is very much unknown now to the mind and to the body. This is where intuition becomes more important as a compass. As my former teacher used to say, keep plunging into the unknown. Gradually, the unknown at each higher dimension starts to become known. As it starts to become known, it becomes material for self-observation. You're now observing a new known, and there's yet another level of unknown beyond that.